I've definitely grown the business since then. When we first started the company, we only made sales in 2021. 2022, we made $176,000 in gross revenue sales. 2023, we made 212. 24 was 325, and for 2025, we were at 25K. So I made it to the $500,000 gross revenue mark. 2 years of that.
What was where it said this? I'm doing my own thing.
I've only had my business for 5 years. I have 2 businesses. My consulting business started in 2015. I've always been entrepreneurial ever since I was younger. Like when I was a kid, I don't know if you guys had like your little plastic or wooden fake kitchens as a little girl. Like mine was wood because we're all around the same age. Like mine was made of wood. It's not plastic. And I would play restaurant in my little kitchen and all this stuff. And then sometimes I'd play teacher. I was always something. I didn't know what that looked like as you grew up. Back in those days, there wasn't a degree for entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship had to have a brick and mortar business. That's why I didn't do it in my 20s. I didn't start until I was already in my later 30s, right? I have always worked in accounting. That's my background, and management. I started helping out a friend of mine who's a CPA. And so I used to bartend too. I always had 2 jobs. I
didn't know that.
Oh yeah. I always had the 9 to 5 and something else. I bartended at night. And then I got to an age where I was like, I'm too old to be up till 2 a.m. bartending for people. I figured this out in my 30s, right? But anyways, so I asked my friend, I was like, hey, do you know anyone who needs a receptionist at night during tax season? He's like, I can utilize you. You have an accounting background. You're going to do more than answer the phone. We even like bypassed the reception job. He already had a reception. I went straight into doing taxes. But at the time I was like, not going to be an employee of his. So I said, well, how am I going to do this? He's like, you're going to be a contractor. And I said, okay, great. What does that mean? And he's like, have you ever thought about consulting? And I was like, what am I going to consult? I was like, consult on accounting? Isn't accounting like a consultant job in a sense? And so we started talking about it more. And he's like, you can be able to do not only this for me, but for other people. And I said, okay. And then I started off just doing, as consultant in tax, but like I was really assisting in doing the tax files and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. But then I was able to start, what I did was originally Gemstone Consulting Group, was I worked with entrepreneurs who were very early on in their business who had not hired their first employee. I had realized that I'm very operationally minded. I was always the one, like when I first started a job, if they're like, oh, we have nothing to train with you with, so here's the manual to our software, or here's the manual built by somebody else for you.
Been there.
I remember building out those manuals with Microsoft Word before you could do it with Canva and all the. And now you can
right.
AI. I can just talk to it and it'll do it for me, right?
It'll do it for you.
Way back when, I had to learn how to cut and paste like scripts. Yeah. I would work with entrepreneurs like you guys, and if you were like, I don't know if I should hire an accountant first, a manager first, or whatever, so I would come in. I would sit with the business owner and learn all about their business. It's a cleaning business. It's an accounting, bookkeeping business, whatever it would be. And then I would help them figure out. First of all, I would help them put together an SOP or their playbook, so their manual, all the things they do. There we would determine, do you just need a generalist, like someone who can just do a little bit of everything, or do you need really an accountant? And then before they hired that person, I'd be that person for 90 days. And that way also I can create the job description and everything. And then we would hire out, and then we would interview and whatnot. And then I would train them. The business owner wouldn't have to train them. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to train her to be your generalist. Then I would train her, and then I would say, hasta la vista, and I'd be out in a few months. And then I would do it again with somebody else. And that's how Gemstone Consulting Group came to be. Yeah, it's been around since 2015. It took a back seat about 5 years ago or so. I was in an accounting job, but I had gotten laid off. I took my package and I was like, I don't want to be behind a desk anymore. I want to be doing something else. I loved the consulting thing, but with tech and everything, things were changing so fast that I needed to adapt, and I just wasn't in the mood to do it yet. I went on to work in the commercial cleaning space. I became an operations manager for a commercial cleaning company that's a franchise. I worked with 2 brothers. One was the entrepreneurial brother who just went into this business because he didn't want a job and work 9 to 5 for somebody else. And his brother, who was his business partner, was former military and had a corporate job. But he would work after his 9 to 5. The 2 brothers, when they interviewed me, I originally was supposed to be just an office manager. And then they said I was overqualified based on my skill set and my resume. So they sat and they said, give us a couple days, we'll get back to you. We want you, but we need to figure out for what. Then they came back a couple days later, and I was like, so what did you guys come up with? They were like, if we can teach our business in 3 months, can you run our operations?
We could go home.
Pretty much in a nutshell. At the time, I didn't know what I was signing up for. And I was just like, yeah, I'm glad I said yes way back when. So I said yes. This was 2016. So I said yes to them. And I literally was like a child with divorced parents, except it was 2 brothers. So during the day from like 10 to 2, I would be with the entrepreneurial brother, and I would learn sales, how to do bids, how to have client relations, talk to people. Then at night, we would get into the grocery store parking lot nearby, and I would go to the other brother's car. And then I would meet the cleaning crew, and I would learn how to clean. They sent me with their mom to learn how to clean. She was a tough woman. I learned how to clean, because cleaning your house is not cleaning an office space. I learned how to inspect buildings, like what to look for when the cleaning is not being done correctly and stuff like that. 3 months later, they jumped ship, went to Mexico for vacation. I had every buyer possible, happen, but I survived. I ran their business up until about 2021, right before COVID. I already had moved on to a different job. And I had a coworker who I met there, and he was like, things are not the same without you. And I would like to have my own cleaning business. And I said, okay. And Casey knows this to be my business partner. I was like, sure, I can help you get your paperwork done. I'm an accountant, so I know what to do online. I created the business for him. And then he was like, can you help me get clients? I'm very social and I'm a national networker. So I was like, all right, yeah, I think I know some people. I can ask to see if they have spaces to clean. Sure enough, I got him a restaurant and a couple offices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then after that, he was like, well, can you help me manage it? At this point, I'm still not taking out any kind of payment. Like I don't get paid for my help. And I said, if you want me to manage, we need to start talking numbers.
Yep.
Easy Clean Group is the commercial cleaning company I own, which will be called Onyx Works as of May 1st. It was owned by me and my business partner at the time. And then after year 1, year 2, we became official partners with me being 51% owner. I wanted to be majority owner because I wanted to go for women-owned business. Then in year 3, we had a falling out with one another. And the problem is as you guys know, in entrepreneurship, it is one hell of a roller coaster ride. It is not a straight path. It is not an easy path. There are days you're wondering if you're going to pay your rent or pay your staff. And so he couldn't handle that roller coaster ride.
They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that.
Yeah, no idea like the amount of panic attacks you have. One day you're like flying high, things are great, you're making your numbers. The next day you're like, oh my God, payday's coming for my staff and I don't have money.
Hell, the mortgage is coming.
Right?
Right.
Unfortunately, he couldn't handle that. The difference is I was lucky. I came from a corporate background. So of course I had some money put aside. He was a worker and lived check to check. So he just was not ready for the storm that we had to go through. And so it didn't work out. And ironically, I was at a blocks training. I was in grad school at the time. And I brought it to my coaches and said, hey, this is my situation. Pretty much in a nutshell, I walked out feeling very confident to tell my business partner we were partners no more and what that exit strategy looked like. So we parted ways and everything. I mean, we still talk every now and again. I don't want to say a friend, but like an associate, former colleague I can talk to every now and again.
Right.
I've definitely grown the business since then. When we first started the company, we only made sales in 2021. 2022, we made $176,000 in gross revenue sales.
Wow.
2023, we made 212. 24 was 325, and for 2025, we were at 25K. So I made it to the $500,000 gross revenue mark.
Great.
2 years of that was without him. So the first 3 years was us together. So,
Okay.
So yeah.
But you guys were able to separate amicably, which is not the norm.
The only reason why it worked out that way, though, was because the litmus test when we went to an attorney to dissolve the partnership was who was doing majority of the work. Part of the problem was that I created the company, even though it was in his name. I found the clients, he did the work, but I also cleaned as well in the beginning. Then I found the cleaners when we were able to start hiring. And then he did take out a business loan to help with the initial stuff of payroll, but I supplemented our business through my own personal funds, loaning money to the company. Since I did majority of the work, and at this point I had more cash into the business than he did, our way of departure was I paid off the loan that he had taken. And then I covered 6 months of his living expenses. So it was like, I will bridge the gap to whatever is coming next for you.
So you offered him a severance.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. That sounds so not textbooky, but because they'd gone to the blocks and grad school part of it, it sounds right on par from what they would do.
I was glad to have that kind of support because it just really helped keep me structured and kept me keeping my one foot forward in front of the other. Because if I did that by myself, I feel like it was such an emotional ride because you build it with somebody. And then what broke my heart, it was like being in a relationship. It is a relationship, right?
It is.
It broke my heart that this person's heart wasn't in it the way mine was. My blood, sweat, and tears and his blood, sweat, and tears were on the same level. So to me, I was like, you're quitting on me. Like I never quit on you, but you're quitting on me.
Right.
With this attitude and all the things and stuff like that. But it ended up, and I did go through a grieving process because it was weird to run the business on my own without that counterpart.
Yeah.
So rely on like, hey, can you take care of this?
What did you learn from that experience though?
For me, what I learned is that first and foremost, this sounds very formal, but it's very true. I don't care if it's your sister, your best friend, or a former coworker, you better have some damn documents in place.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what we did before we even did our show the first day. One of the things we did an agreement.
Our contracts.
Our contract.
Oh yeah. And some people are like, oh, you don't need that. No, I don't. Like I said, I don't care the relationship.
Yeah,
it's just better for the two parties because that way, hopefully, the relationship that started before the business, like the friendship, the sibling, familial relationship, can still be intact when all is said and done if things go sideways.
One of the things that Ian and I said when I even told her, she's bringing stuff to the table that it's like, what? That's why she's the producer. There's things that I bring, but there's things that she brings. And one of the things I hated with corporate, which I do with us, okay, this year, what are you going to do to add on your plate and take off of hers? And I told her, I'm not trying to do what you do. Trust, I am not. That's one of the things I think that when you're going into business with somebody or somebody's, get a clear distinction of what is going to be going on, because you got too many cooks in the kitchen and then you got salty soup.
Yep.
I take some of the little things off of E's plate.
Yep.
But she still has the big stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I ain't trying to run up your back to do everything. Trust me.
That makes total sense. And I would even take it a step further. From what I heard from you is you want to interview the person that you're going into business with, because you said you had an entrepreneurial mind. He obviously didn't. He had a worker.
Right.
You come from corporate. He comes from day-to-day living check to check. So that in itself, you guys were not compatible for being business partners.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's crazy because it's almost like, I feel like a business partnership is even like a relationship partnership, whether it's marriage or just being life partners, right? Because what we should have done is gone to the table and said, what is this going to look like? It was more so flying by the seat of our pants. Because even when I initially set it up just for him, I didn't have the conversation of what does that look like for you? And are you ready for the things that's going to happen as an entrepreneur and giving up your job and the stability of a check, right? It was just like, yeah. It was just yes, move, action, yes, action, saying yes and action, but no planning in between. And then like they say, people don't plan to fail. It's those who fail to plan. We failed to plan. And so, yeah, that's what happened with us and everything. He even went on to start his own cleaning company. I don't know how that's going for him because I have, again, like you said, the compatibility. I have all the know-how. I know what it takes to hire, what interviews to do, what it takes to have money, where to get money from, being resourceful and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like when you're in a partnership, whether it's for life, marriage, whatever you want to call it, you and your person have to sit and be like, what does our future look like? Are we always going to live in this condominium? Are we going to go retire somewhere? What are we doing with children? It's really interesting because I follow Vivian too, who is known as like the rich BFF. She's very popular on Instagram. She's written books about to work in Wall Street in the stock market. And now she gives advice to people like us to how to be successful. And she has this thing in her book. It's really cute. You have a finance date with your significant other once a month. And it has to be fun. It's not just here's our QuickBooks or Excel spreadsheets and our bank statements. It's like, hey, babe, we're going to have pizza, but we're also going to talk about, are we contributing to our 401k? What is our plan with vacation? Like all the things. So it's not just like hey, I'm going to send you a calendar invite. We're going to sit over Zoom together, like 2 employees discussing stuff, right? It's so important in business and personally you have to have the talks, no matter what.
That it's so different, work and personal, but it really isn't. It really isn't.
I even think that I'm more in communication with E a lot of the times, and sometimes just by overhearing the conversation or I tell him what we're doing, we have to be on the same wavelength, even down to I'll wake up in the morning. I'm like, you know what? I don't dislike what I'm doing, but I'm over it today. And then we go on and we do a show and then we're all is right with the world. But there's days when I'm looking for E, whether she realizes it or not, to pick me up, and I'll call her like, hey, you don't sound right. So being in tune with that, we take turns. And again, it's learning somebody, and you either it's going to work or it's not.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to do before I forget. Now, going back to the blocks, I don't know if we really actually talked about it, not even so much the grad school, because not everybody knows about the grad school portion until you've gone through the actual blocks itself. How did you feel about doing it? Not so much did you like it, but it's like when I went, for example, I didn't know what I was expecting. I was scared shitless, different city, different people, by myself, having to talk about my business when I barely knew about my business myself. I've been doing it for a few years, poorly, I might add, but still doing it. And having to get up and talk off of these topic questions, being recorded, being videoed, and then you have to sit and get critiqued. That was a lot.
Yeah, you mean when we were filming the actual blocks?
Yeah.
I got to go on stage one of the nights. I got to compete in the games at the end of the day, one of the nights. But yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing when I went to the blocks. I was on Instagram one night, doom scrolling at 2 a.m. And there was this ad. It was like, we're looking for entrepreneurs. And I was like, but why? Because I am one. I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. And it was like, do you want to be on TV? I was like, sure. But just saying yes to all the things. And I was like, it was like, click here. And I clicked and filled out the thing and forgot about and was like, no one's going to call me. Who wants to deal? Because I applied for the commercial cleaning company, not my operations consultant business. And I was like, no one's going to call me for this. It's not exciting. It's not exciting for TV. So I get called like months later and I go through the casting process and I get cast. But yeah, like I didn't know what to expect, but I just knew like we're going to be in a week-long boot camp. And that was it. And being filmed. But yeah, we learned like all the great things about like your playbook or your SOPs, your hiring and stuff like that. You go through that for the 6 days that we're there. And then there's just another level to it. After that, when the cameras are all off, it's still business at the end of the day. Wes, who's from MTV and is the founder of this, he created a thing called grad school. You go on to graduate to the next level. You saw, I went to it before you did, Casey.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect either. I just knew that fortunately, 2 other women and I from our season had applied at the same time, and we were crossing fingers we were all going to be there, and we were. Season 17 had some representation. I was cohort number 5 for grad school. So there was myself and 2 other people from our season. It was great because we were there for a few days as well, but we got to have different coaches to talk to, and there was more one-on-one time.
It was.
I really loved because it was never cookie cutter to begin with, which is what I like about the blocks in their program, because you sign up for some of these coaching things and you're going to watch these modules and you're going to do these things. And it's like, it doesn't, you own a supplement company, a cleaning company, or a PR firm. We're all doing the same thing.
Right.
But what I liked about this was like, no, I own a commercial cleaning company. These are my issues. Help talk me through these issues. So that's what I loved about it. And so from my personal entrepreneurial journey, I'm still part of Beta Blocks Corporation as far as being a client. I went on to do what's called Beta Blocks Mentorship. It's a 2-year program where you get coached, except what is the end game goal is that you become $1 million gross revenue sale business. So if in the 2 years you don't get to that number, you can either make the million right off the bat or you can do it cumulatively. Even after my 2 years is up, I'm held contractually liable to get it to $1 million because they are going to help me get there as well. One way or another, I will get to $1 million business and Wes will get paid for helping me do that. I think there's value too in having an accountability partner. It's finding someone to hold you accountable. And if you can't do that in your circle of friends or in the circle of your network, you can always do it by being part of a great program and vetting out the program first, obviously. That's big for me because I'm a solopreneur technically now. Like when I was on the show with Casey, our last night, we all got to talk to Wes for a few minutes and whatnot. It seems dark, but I'm not being dark about it. When I went up to him and thanked him, I said, being an entrepreneur is similar to having cancer. And he's how so? Because he was kind of like thrown off by it. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, you feel like you're the only person in the world going through it. It doesn't matter if it's the most common cancer in the world. You think it's just you. It's such an isolating experience because even though you have the family, the friends, and all the people, it's only you going through it. When you're an entrepreneur, business partner or not, it's only you or the 2 of you that are going through it. And even though you have each other, you may still feel isolated because maybe you don't want to go to that partner and share with them your fears because you're the motivated friend. You don't want to let them know that like, I still have, but like, if you actually look at it, once you accept the role, you're diagnosed with cancer, you have this business, you